We've been waiting for the $1 million question.
Yeah,
bro.
the man. Yeah, we need this.
What do you think was more detrimental or bad or worse off for black people? The crack epidemic or slavery? Because slavery, everybody thinks slavery at first because obvious reasons.
Right.
But but throughout all that time back in slavery, black people were together. As a people, we were a people. After the crack epidemic hit, you see that separation, and now I want to kill you. We not brothers no more. There's no more Black Panthers. There's no more civil rights movements. And we destroying our own communities, destroying each other.
That's amazing that you said that. That's a great question. Would you mind if I throw another answer in there?
Go ahead.
I think the worst thing that happened to black people was welfare. And this is why I say that. So after slavery, after Reconstruction, and then after Jim Crow, you know, what got instituted was help from the government. You know, and what you call it, it's a point in the movie Don't Be a Menace where Ashtray Dad, he make a joke like, they say, man, and stop taking high interest loans and getting help from the government. And then Ashtray Dad's like, no, our family been surviving for generations off of governmental help. But that was the worst thing. And because with welfare, they had this rule. They had a rule called man in the house rule. So basically, if you receive welfare as a woman, you couldn't have a man in the house in order to receive it, right? So what does that do to the black family dynamic? So the black man is no longer in the house. And why is the black man no longer in the house? Why would you say, nah, fuck that? We're gonna say no welfare, and we're gonna keep our household and keep the black family. But unfortunately, what happened was this was at a time where women weren't qualified, or they didn't let women work, so they couldn't get the jobs. And then black men, they used to do a thing where black men would only be able to work 3 months out of the whole year. So a black man's perspective is like, damn, I can only provide for my family legally 3 months out of the year, whereas welfare, you could get that every month and my kids and everybody can eat. So that posed one problem. How does this affect the black community? So the strongest thing, like you just mentioned, was camaraderie, community, togetherness. When we was in slavery, we went through that together. So what that made us even stronger, because nobody knew our pain. Indentured servants didn't know our pain, because y'all could eventually, that y'all had the hope of one day being free. Slavery, they just had the wheels in Georgia that said slaves was passed down, and then that their kids would be owned by somebody else. Think you born into slavery and you never seen a day of freedom. That's a different type of pain. That's generational trauma that many people never experienced. So the strongest unit for black people was the black family dynamic. And it was also unique because before they had same-sex marriages, this was one of the only relationships that we saw was egalitarian. And what egalitarian means is you see your partner as equal, and your equal carries an equal amount of the load. So this was a relationship in America that you don't really see. You didn't really see at this point. So with welfare, what it did was took the man out of the house, and in a society that is patriarchal, in a society that's misogynistic, in a society that views men at the top of the totem pole, you take the one thing that can equal or defeat the power structure of white supremacy, and you tell not only the whole world like you've been telling, but within his own safe space, you tell him you're not even good enough to help your own family. The woman now holds all the power. So now not only does that does that present shift within our society and within our American westernized point of view, Anglo-Saxon point of view, it your own equal says, damn, you are not able to provide how I need to. And now I'm the breadwinner. So what does this do over the span of 10, 20, 30 years from like the 1950s all the way to, I'll say, the 80s? So what happens in the first 20 years, you get by. You figure that out. But also what happens is this man can't be in the house. So where is he going to be at? I'm not able to make as much money to go sustain my own self. I'm not able to take care of my family, but I can't be in this house all the time. Where is he going to be at? Oh, 1 month, I'm going to be at this house. And then another month, I'm going to be down the street at this other person's house. Now it creates something that, you know, in a different way, when people was in different type of cultures in Africa and other places where they had polyamorous and polygamous relationships, it says, okay, I have to go fend for myself. Now you might have a family right here, but you got to go start a whole nother family because you're in this person's house where a man is not in there, but you're going back and forth. Sometimes 3 families just to sustain yourself, just because you can't be here. Literally, if you can't be here, your kids can't eat, your woman can't eat. So that develops. Now we have a situation where you have a man who has multiple kids by multiple people, and that might be cool in other places, but in Anglo-Saxon tradition, it's like, oh, one woman, multiple kids. So you build that up. Now you build up another thing. The man is not in the house. A woman is dope, but I feel like what I've been taught is a woman is the teacher. She usually teaches a lot. She's the nurturer for the most part. That's the feminine energy a woman commands. Not only does she have to take on the masculine energy, but now you have to be the authoritative parent within this household. And I love women, and I think women are dope, but for some reason, there's a certain authority that men have with what they're doing that, you know, goes far within a family. You know what I'm saying? So now you have the man out of the house. Not only a person's authority can only go so far. So even if you're the most scariest mom ever or the most coolest mom ever, that's so much stress on you, you might not be able to handle that. So now you lose the authority of this other parent. You lose all this other stuff that it needs to take to raise and bear kids. And you get this independent woman and this man who has to depend on multiple women to keep going. So, you know, for a minute, that might be cool, but everybody understands the reality. But who is disconnected from knowing the truth of all of this? The kids that are a byproduct of all of this happening. So what happens? Not only do these kids lose the disciplinary or 2 disciplinaries in their house, but they also lose the fact of somebody being there to support and watch them. So these kids are doing whatever. What does this create? This creates criminals, because if you're out there doing anything, anybody can come pull you and put you in this lifestyle. This creates just overall dysfunction and chaos. So now, and I'm saying this and I'm paraphrasing, but they got a documentary where they shot in the 70s and they talk about all of this. And then they talk about everything I just said. And then they talk about how important the black family is. And there's a white psychologist that says, man, this is not good, because literally, if you don't have 2 parents in the household, that's more weight, and these kids are not going to be able to be looked after. So they're going to do whatever. This is going to create criminals, and this is also going to create women not wanting the man to be in that house. And over the years, this is going to create criminals for generations. So then this was in the 70s. In the 80s, they had a documentary of just talking about the black women that were products of receiving welfare, and the 2 women talking in both of these documentaries are polar opposites. In the 70s, it was talking about how important it is to have a family, for the father to be there. In the 80s, it was saying, oh, I don't want the man to be in the house. But I don't need him. All I need to do is make sure I get my welfare. He don't even need to see his kid. So now you perpetuate a mindset that goes on for generations, and something that was in our families. Our family was the strongest thing. Now, even today, you still see that. You feel me? The comfortability with it. So
that's what I was gonna say about with the crack and shit, because you see the trickle down effect on how everybody's affected. But from hearing what you said, it sounds like the big thing was, the first step was separating the families, which was getting the man out the house. Mm-hmm. And then when exactly the welfare hit? You said this.
I think 1950s, but 1950s. Don't quote me. So that was the first installment of it.
Because even there, 50s, 60s, 70s, the families were still together. And it was still, black people actually could function and do their own thing. It was hard as hell, but they were still going to go out there and do what they needed to do. But like the late 80s hit, I think, and now when the crack, that's when it really separated everything. But from what you explained, it was already in play. The man is gone. Okay, boom. Now let's separate the communities. Mm-hmm. We separate the house. Now let's break up their communities, because everybody was, like you said, everybody was together. I don't see us being able to have no civil rights leaders in rally. We don't even know who to look up to nowadays for something like that.
Unfortunately.
LeBron James is the next Martin Luther King. That will never happen again.
Mm-hmm. But even as much as he speaks out, he still got relationships with people who try to oppress us. So he has to go through the moral compass of, damn, I want to speak up for my people, which he does, but also in situations where, damn, these people made me a billionaire. So it's like, do I jeopardize my own personal affluence or elevation to help others. So it's interesting. And even when you look back on history, let's say like since Jim Crow, every 10 years, there's been something that's been instilled by policy or a law that prevents black people and melanated individuals to succeed. So in the 60s, you got Jim Crow, right? Then the 70s, that was welfare. The 80s, you got crack. 90s, you got mass incarceration. This is when Hillary Clinton was calling people in part of gangs and melanated black super predators. In the early 2000s, you got gang enhancement. If you're a part of a gang and you go to jail, we can enhance whatever you did and make you serve life. In the early 2000s, the 2010s was the first generation that you see that didn't have this extra task on them. And this is when you see phones come out, but you see a whole different type of like freedom from black people. And if you peep, this is when like HBK, this is when like Wiz Khalifa, Big Sean come out. And now that's the popular place. You could go look at it from like 2009 to like 2012. Hip hop was in a whole different space. Like different people was popular. This is when Kendrick Lamar got popping. J. Cole, we was on a different wave. And then what happens after that?
Murder.
Chief Keef. I love Chief Keef. I think he dope as fuck. I fuck with Chief Keef heavy. But right after that, you get brainwashed. And now these people are empowering. Not to say that music is bad, but this is what gets empowered. So now and then you go from a whole thing where the popular artist that's what they talking about. You know what I mean? Not that it ever stopped, but even if you go back to the 90s, Public Enemy was the most popular artist or group into the 90s, right? And then once they started actually having labels and doing stuff, who did they empower? They empowered gangster rap. That wasn't the popular rap genre back in the. Will Smith was the first rapper to win a Grammy. If gangster rap was the most popular genre, naturally, how did Will Smith, who didn't cuss, be the first rapper to win a Grammy? It's crazy when you think about it because it's very systematic, and it's just for us to know. Not to say that these rappers and people are necessarily bad, but it's the same way that they empower these artists that are bringing the community down. It's like why is it not getting empowered these artists that like a Lil Russell? Why is he not getting a fair proper deal? Why is he not getting a deal that's not taking his namesake away? Why aren't these people getting empowered? You feel me? So it's like you got to look at shit like that. And it's Lil Russell is his own thing, but there's a lot of artists that sit in that realm. And why do you have to sell yourself in order to be that? I'm one of the artists. Why do I need to sell myself in order to go to that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think his campaign is just that. But yeah, you're right. Every artist goes through that system.
But now that was a long-winded ass answer, man. But
that was beautiful.
I had to get into it because I was literally debating somebody because the thing on Twitter or X that I see a lot is, a lot of people talk about, how invaluable the black man is. And so much so that black women have adopted this mindset. And I forgot who the president was. It was either Eisenhower or somebody, but he did in 1969, he had a speech and he talked about how America systematically dismantled the black family so much so that they intentionally devalued the black man so that everybody can view him as less than, which in turn, that's the quote unquote leader of the black family, which in turn trickled to the whole for just black people in general, to not only where the women don't respect him, but his kids don't either. And it was like, man, the only way to fix that is we have to change that. And you see it now, bro. I just watched before I got here, women giving a tutorial on how to date outside your race. And a woman literally said, all the stuff that black men put up with, you can't do this with other races because they're not going to put up with that. And it's just off the rip where it's like, why would you not give them the same respect you give somebody else? It's just very interesting, when you think about this and a lot of things happening right now. Of course, we live in a patriarchal society and all of that stuff. But a lot of things right now seems to be like, if you're a man, you can't necessarily have feelings. And on top of that, you can't necessarily want to be treated well because of all the shit that white men led, and it's not the case. And it's like, they want women want black men to be more vulnerable. But then when you get more vulnerable, you get gaslit, especially if a woman is more intelligent and articulate than you. And it's like, I saw that today as well. A dude talking about like, all right, if a black man expresses himself and you don't like the point that he's making or how he expresses himself, the conversation doesn't go about the analysis of his feelings. It goes from how what he said made you feel. Now you just flip the whole situation. So yeah, bro, it should be crazy, man. So fuck welfare. And I'm still gonna get these food stamps though.
It's the victim mindset. Like the staying on welfare and shit.